call to order the December 5th meeting of the Underhill Planning Commission. Does anyone have any additions to the agenda? I have a few if we make it to them due to the weather, which is just an update on the planning administrator job and a town report thing. And if we do them at the next meeting, that's fine. So no big deal. That takes us to public comment. Would you mind introducing yourself for the recording, Nicholas?
Sure.
And then please, just share your
Should
thoughts.
look into this thing, or do you guys?
It'll automatically rotate around.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so guys, I introduced myself before, but I'll introduce myself to anybody listening online or whatever. My name is Nicholas Burrell. I live at 612 Pleasant Valley Road, and I'm here to talk about, I guess it's Gordon Williamson is trying to change the regulations for sawmills. I've been on this ongoing, I don't want to say dispute, but just to give you guys a little background. I was on vacation for the entire summer. I came home and Gordon was set up next to my property. And I was like, I wonder if he's allowed to be there. I didn't think much of it. I thought, I'm assuming that you guys are familiar with this situation.
Yeah,
you've all reviewed the stuff. Okay, so I thought, oh man, I wonder if this guy is allowed to be there. And when he came down and introduced himself, and we had a great relationship, Gordon's family and our family, as we did with the Tisberts. He assured me that he works for the town. He's allowed to be there. And I said, oh, okay, well, that must be. And then, the piles of logs started to grow larger than they were. I asked Joe, I said, Joe, we're really not happy with this sawmill right next to our house. Could you please move it? Because Joe Tisbert, they own, a sizable acreage, and also Gordon also owns a sizable acreage. And this is before we looked into any of the town regulations or the accepted management practices for the state of Vermont. So, come to find out that he wasn't allowed to be there. So what we did was we called the town zoning administrator and we said, hey, we think that there's this guy here and he's not allowed to be there. It seems like we read your regulations as laymen, and it seems to us that it is specifically no sawmills because there's not a forestry program going on there. And he said, okay, well, I'll look into it. So Brad, the town zoning administrator, consulted with the town's attorney. It took some time, but I understand that he wanted to be fair and represent all parties. And, if Gordon was allowed to be there, that would have been it. He's allowed to be there. We're respectful people, but he wasn't. So then we were like, you're not allowed to be here. Can you please move? We don't want, to do. And he said the only concession that he'll make is that he won't start cutting till 8 a.m. And are you guys familiar with my property and the Tisbert's property, where this is located at?
I obviously.
You obviously are, because are you guys familiar?
You're the little red house.
I am the little red house.
Right next to it, where he was working.
Right. Yeah. So the field that he was in is a couple thousand yards in length. And I asked him, I said, you're not allowed to do this in Underhill in this, scenic preservation district. And I said, but what you could do is just move down the field into Cambridge where there's no zoning and you can operate there all day long. And he said, well, no, I'm not going to do that for a number of reasons. The wetness of the field, there's a couple excuses. And he had already moved once by Pam and Dave Still's house. They I don't know what happened there, but there was something with the bridge, the weight of his bridge and the shared driveway, and they didn't want to update the bridge or whatever. So we find out that he can't be there. Brad ruled that he can. So we were like, this is odd to me, that, I'm assuming I'm a cook by trade, so I don't claim to be that educated. But when I read it, I was like, that's pretty clear that he's not supposed to be there. That's when I was like, it's kind of odd that the zoning administrator would, consult with the town's attorney and then come up with he's allowed to be there, because it seemed pretty cut and clear. So you're like, oh shoot, man, we're gonna have to hire legal representation to have this, have the regulations interpreted correctly for the town. So we did that, and the town has ruled, in our favor each time. And we are in no way trying to crush Gordon's business or do anything like that. So I thought that this was going to be a one phone call to the town. Now we are playing like Gordon has pivoted so many times from the beginning of this. It seems to me that like he was wrong. Either he didn't know the regulations, okay, or he just didn't care about them. And he's supposed to be the expert blogger, silviculture, tree guy, right? I don't have anything. I don't know anything about this. I do now because we've had to review all the regulations.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this is crazy. So every time that we've had to come down here and he's pivoted, like first it was he was allowed to be there from the accepted management practices. And then we were like, well, no, you're not, because you're bringing in logs from another site. And then he pivoted to say that he was, forestry management for Joe Tisberg. Well, it's the same rules, okay? Our regulations in the town here are written to the regulations for the accepted management practices for the silviculture for the state, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Those, as my attorney has shown, if you guys review all the evidence that they submitted, has shown that, these silviculture stuff is for, water runoff, it's for, I'm sorry if I'm
like
looking for
erosion.
the word erosion, and it's for like being a steward of the forest, like doing that responsibly and stuff. So those are like the regulations. So he's trying to like fit this this mold. Each time he pivots, we've had to have our attorney come down and be like, actually, no, that's not right. Like that's, and I feel like at this time, I would ask you guys to like put an end to this, to say like, no, the town could have said no in the beginning and said, no, these are our regulations, right? But okay, they wanted to try to help this guy. He's trying to, and maybe it was his mistake that he thought, there's no regulations in Vermont because there's not a lot of regulations in Vermont. We purchased our property here in Underhill because of these regulations. We know that there's not going to be a business being able to set up without proper review, and which he just set up. And then was like, well, I'm this. Now I'm this. Now I'm this. Well, each time we've shown that, well, you're not that, So I would ask you guys to like say like, it's okay to say no, and say like, these are our regulations. If you review, we just our attorney reached out to Brad saying that like, Gordon is in violation because they ruled that he can't be there. He's still got logs in the Tisberg's property. And we wanted to have those logs removed. Enforcement's been kind of an issue. So we're waiting on the DRB's ruling on whether he's in violation or
Which was
not.
last week.
Which it was this current week, 2 days ago.
Second, I was just pulling that up because I thought I saw something come up on a appeal hearing for that.
I think it was about the violation.
It is about the
Right,
violation. So, and
Violation of, what, the log being there is a violation?
Remember, Brad?
No, running a built business.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember
The log
Gordon
being
said-
there is not a violation.
Well, I don't know exactly remember Gordon said Brad gave him a violation when he was in here. I don't know what the actual like language of the violation.
basically, it's easy to prove that he's still in violation. Maybe not to you guys, but to the environmental court, it'd be very easy.
Yeah.
He's got 3 or 4 days ago, maybe a week ago, I'm not, sure about. He's trying to sell log length logs out of the same property that he's been.
Right.
Where these logs are stored.
Right.
Now he's like, he told the DRB, like, I cut those logs from my property and I'm allowed to store logs wherever I want, which, is true. But like, it's still attached to the business that was, so the court will most likely rule that if, it gets kicked down to the court. I would like you guys to like put an end to this.
We can't do that.
Well,
We're
zoning
not a regulatory
administrator.
body.
Totally, but you are the body who says whether it goes to the ballot or not. Is that correct?
Yeah, but
No, we
that
don't
would be
have-
for
we
another
don't
year.
even-
or two.
Well,
No, is that
or
correct?
one step, correct me if everyone else chime in, you're giving us one step too much credit.
Okay.
What I mean,
Please.
what I mean by
yeah.
that is, so what our job is to go through the town regs, whether it's this or something else, and say, based on the town plan and blah, 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 we think that the regulation should be this, but we don't actually then get to take it to the voters. The only
Okay.
technicality you're missing is you're like 99% of the way there. We tell the select board, like, we recommend X, and it's totally up to the select board what they do with it. This select board might tell us, you guys are nuts, whether it's this or something else.
Sure.
Like, we have no interest in doing that. It
Okay.
is ultimately up to the select board.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
don't have any actual power because we weren't elected by the voters.
So
The
you're an
select board.
advisory committee to get regulations to the ballot
I
or,
feel like-
or for the select board?
I feel like, yes, maybe not so much for the ballot, whether or not it's going to the ballot. The select board we're sort of charged with like doing the town plan and doing like long-term strategic planning for the town,
Yeah.
which includes the regulations.
Perfect.
But we have no power to say like, this should go to the
Yeah.
public for
Sure.
approval.
And-
That's up to the select.
And what
Also,
we do is
we-
not
we
specific to
also-
Gordon. Like, I think there's a disconnect I've had a few times in these meetings is that, because we're talking about better defining these pieces, parts of the overall sawmill definition.
Yep.
And I feel like some public people interpret that as, oh, we're trying to make a loophole for Gordon, and that's not what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And so I think, you guys have a specific problem with Gordon and what he's doing now based on what the DRB approved, and then what they kind of unapproved.
Well, Brad
whatnot.
approved it in the DRB.
Yeah,
Unapproved,
so whatever
right.
the order, so that's like that's its own entity, and then we're like a bigger, broader picture of like, we just want to come up with, like what Brian said, a plan to define these things
Mhm.
and give some, rules,
Clear
regulations on them,
guidelines.
yeah. And
Sure.
then-
What we do will affect, I mean,
It
Nicholas
will.
isn't wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the volley for that is really like, why are you considering changing the regulation?
We want to
Just to
clarify
clarify.
that.
Sure. And what was the catalyst for that clarification?
Well, it's Gordon, I mean, without question, it was Gordon coming in.
Thank
Like,
you.
let's be clear. right?
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so I feel like we can move on from that conversation.
Yeah.
So Gordon was absolutely
The only
catalyst
reason
for
this came
you know,
up is
right.
because
It's because of Gordon.
Gordon brought
Right.
it in.
So
Yeah, That's
okay, so-
without question.
Thank you.
true.
Okay, so,
Sure.
also, if you change this regulation for one person, which I get, like, you're saying it's a broader thing, but it's obviously pretty, like we just covered, he's the catalyst for this. If you change this regulation and say like, oh, well, we're gonna allow sawmills and wood processors to be in Underhill, do you guys think that it's going to help more people or harm more people? Like, so
No, I see what you're-
we're considering changing a regulation for one entrepreneur, okay, that didn't look into his regulations before operating a business, okay? So if you change this regulation, and this guy can operate, what's gonna happen to all of the sawmills? That Gordon says a lot of times, like, where are you gonna buy wood? And, I want the same chance as the guys on River Road and all the other wood processors in town. Well, the town made the decision to limit those amount of sawmills in town at that point when those regulations were made.
Yeah.
Because you're being the squeaky wheel, that doesn't make sense. Now, are people, 50 people coming and being like, well, I want to operate my mill too. And he's given, many, examples of like, what if I wanted to make, dowels or shelves or whatever, and you
Yeah.
wanted to process this wood?
He's
Right.
more than welcome to, anybody's more than welcome to apply for conditional use permit to
Right.
do any of those
Of
things.
course.
So the process for that is you have to go to the DRB and apply for the permit to do a home business, which
Sure.
is, the town does actually encourage home businesses. Very few people
Absolutely.
apply for permits to do that. So,
But he's been
It-
denied that.
yeah, he's been denied twice. So.
Right. So that's the crux of this is like, you've been denied twice. So if this is the precedent that the town is gonna
I see what
set,
I
you
see
know
what
what I'm saying? Like, so what's the difference if like he started a business and now he's asking for forgiveness later? That's not proper planning or great entrepreneurship in any sense. If you're gonna open a business, first thing you do is check the regs. If you're charged with building new Dollar Generals across the country, and then you're like, yeah, I got this great place and it's going to be great, and I'm going to build up this Dollar General. Well, if you can't build a Dollar General, you're probably fired. It's not like, oh, let me go see if I can change the regulations and, so, who's to say like, one of the regulations in town, I believe, I could be wrong, is like, I think you're not supposed to build like higher than 35 feet or something for.
There's a height limit.
There's a height limit, okay, so like, what's to stop for me or anybody else from, putting up a 10-story building and being like, well.
Nicholas, do you have any specific suggestions you have about what our rules should be?
Yes, I believe that you should say like, no, we're sticking with this regulation, and it's like almost a too bad, too sad situation. He's the forestry manager for the Tisberts. He could literally move 500 yards down the field and operate his business clear as day.
So you think the definition we have in the rules as is clear enough?
Sure, and if you guys want to ask me any questions about how it's muddy, because I've heard that a lot about like, oh, it's muddy, you can do this, and what, the what ifs, because that's what we're talking about here is like, well, what if this and what if that? It's not muddy. Those regulations were in place for a reason, and I looking at all the information that you guys have, it's like, it's very, clear that the sawmills are not allowed. There are multiple wood processors. How big is Underhill? Not that big, right? How many residents do we have? 3,200. We have 6 wood processors already. And Gordon keeps bringing up the fact about like these guys are old and they're going to die. How dare him say that about those people who work their lives to build that business and think that that business dies with their death? They don't think that those people have families that would run those businesses afterwards, or the managers. Do we need more than 6 or 7? I don't even know how many wood processing.
Well, if you were to look at the video of our last couple of meetings when we've discussed sawmills, you'll see that we've decided that, I think everybody would support this, that a wood processor is not a sawmill.
Well,
that's kind of where we're headed with all this.
Right.
That it's not a sawmill. Sawmills are allowed in one part of town, and I think when they wrote that regulation, which was a long time ago, they were looking at a huge sawmill like Lamel's in Essex, or the one that used to be by the grocery store.
Okay.
You can only put them here. You couldn't put a sawmill out in your neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But we've discussed this several times, and we feel, I think everybody supports this, right? Or this is what
we're going to continue that discussion.
You're going to continue the discussion.
Well, and I talked to Charlie and Brad, and I was going to fill everyone in on those conversations, so I was curious for your thoughts on since you're here.
Yeah.
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So here's what Charlie and Brad both told me, paraphrasing for the record, because they're watching, they're like, that's not exactly what I said.
Well, for background for you, Charlie, you used to be on the DRB, right?
Yeah, I mean, Charlie.
So what did they say?
So here's what they said. I'm super paraphrasing.
Yeah.
3 things. Well, no, I haven't told anyone this yet. So, because I promised to follow up on this for this meeting. They both said 3 things, basically. That they think wood processing should be subject to hours of operation, including like no weekends and starting and end times, right? Well, I think they said no Sundays, actually. But anyway, hours of operation, setbacks. Charlie said setbacks, Brad said radius, which those are different. And noise level with 2 parts, both levels and hertz. And then it should be on the applicant to do the testing and demonstrate that at whatever distance it is, that they're meeting the qualification. Brad gave me a specific radius definite suggestion, which I'll share, which was 1,000 feet. So that's the feedback from both of them.
Radius being.
Like if you put your log, your firewood operation here, then there would be a radius around it. So it's not just a setback. I don't know how this is different, but Brad specifically said, it makes my head hurt when I think about it. I'm sure there's hypotheticals where it matters, but that it's radius, not just a setback from the property line. Brad.
But it would also be treated as a home business and not as a sawmill. because it's all.
Well, it would be a separate thing. It would be a firewood processor, but it would be subject to all these rules,
Which is
which is not what you're saying you would like to see, which is why I'm sharing
Absolutely
this.
not,
So, yeah.
because in that sense, okay, you guys all live in Underhill?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, you
Okay.
have to be.
Oh, you have to, okay. So like anybody can come set up shop then, right next door and get a permit.
They have to go through the process, applying for the permit, telling all the neighbors that they're applying for the permit.
Mhm.
The neighbors come into the meeting and voice their concern and say they don't want this here because of this reason.
Okay.
And then the DRB comes up with a decision, but the DRB wants us to come up with some specific guidelines.
See,
That's
to me,
minimal, guys.
Okay, so to me, this is the DRB being like, we're gonna make it fit for Gordon. That's why it seems like, no.
That's, you're implying that's totally not.
Totally,
Nothing.
just be clear, I am implying that, okay?
Well-
And this can be proven by, Gordon is the catalyst for this. No one else is bitching about this except for Gordon, you know?
I think that's absolutely right. I don't think anyone could deny that. The reason this conversation came up is because of Gordon.
Right.
But
You know,
We're
that's
doing
clearly
it for
true.
Gordon. We're doing it for future, we're doing it to prevent
brought up
Gordon
a-
from happening again.
It's brought up
Sure.
a bigger
How about-
philosophical thing, but yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is like, you know, my family and another family, the guys across the street, the Vogels, have spent.
Russ came in with your wife.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
So, you know, we have spent tens of thousands of dollars, okay, interpreting the regulations for this town, which we are happy to do, okay? But it seems to me that it's just, I don't want to be like, you know, it's not fair. I'm relying on the town to uphold the regulations and not change them for one squeaky wheel, okay? And
We're not doing that.
right, but
We just realized that they're not clear enough. And
but see,
so
it actually is clear enough. The only person that's saying it's muddy is Gordon, and he has convinced you guys that this is muddy. It is not, you know. And our attorneys can come in. We've been advised that this is better way to deal with this right now with you guys because we're better hurt. But they will, you know, show that it's not muddy at all. They have, if you guys have looked at the evidence that they've submitted. You know, it's not, and it shows you other towns have gone through the same stuff. It shows why the accepted management practices are for like, so the state can come in and do some forestry work and the towns can't say, well, no, you can't do that because of our standards practices and our, you know.
Yeah, that's already been sorted out and that's
right.
history, you know.
And that is why the definition of sawmill is there. So if you take that out of there and say, well, that's not a sawmill, then anybody can come do whatever they want with a sawmill, you know, big or small, you know?
It's not a sawmill. It's a wood processing
That,
business.
it's absolutely a sawmill as it stands right now, the regulations, like that is your opinion, but as the town's regulations and the accepted management practices, it is a sawmill.
Is there a distance, and I understand there's legal things here, so I said this to your wife and Ralph and to Gordon.
And I'll tell you, I know where you're going with it, how can we solve this problem, right?
Is there a theoretical distance? Like, I'm wondering, like, let's say some dude who lives up on, like, Upper English Settlement, I'm trying to pick the most remote part of Underhill that I can think of, right? Like,
Hey, why you get
some, no, like up at the top, like, let's say there's some dude there whose house is not within, like, 10,000, I'm coming up with a ridiculous hypothetical, obviously, 10,000 feet of another house.
Right.
Like, do you think there, in your opinion, is there a distance? Let's say it's not 1,000.
You know what?
Hypothetical distance.
It's already set in the regulations. Yeah. It's nuisance. So there are people operating. So there are people currently operating like Gordon is right now, but their neighbors haven't bitched about it.
Right.
Because they had enough sense to not set up shop directly next to somebody, okay? And that's why Mr. Holden's saying, like, you know, we don't go around looking for zoning violations.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So with that being said, how can you want to change this? Because your opinion is different than the regulation.
Well, even if we change it, that doesn't mean suddenly Gordon's going to be allowed to do it.
He's got to go through the process.
He might still be denied
absolutely.
and still be in violation and still have to take his business to Route 15.
Sure, and I would ask you that when he is coming as the catalyst for considering the regulations changed, I'm the catalyst to say, please don't change these
Yeah.
regulations.
Well, the regulations
We've-
are not perfect. These are something that are put together by people, and they aren't perfect.
No, they're
And they're being
Right.
worked on all the time. They're changes that we
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying
suggest.
to make it fair for
When-
everybody.
I understand that.
When we do make a change, actually, or a suggested change, it goes through a process of public hearings, and then it goes before the voters. And at
Okay.
that time, the voters look at it and say, we don't want this for town, or yeah, we think this is okay for the town.
Sure.
So that's the process, basically.
I understand the process, and I know it's time to go, but this
No,
is.
no, first of all, thank you for coming very much. I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, I appreciate what you guys do, and I know I come in
sharing
hot,
your
but
thoughts.
like,
Oh, yeah.
No, go ahead.
I really try to negate all this. I went to Joe and I said, Joe, can you please move? And like, I want to still be friends with Gordon.
Yeah.
I still want to be friends with Joe. Now, I'm like, I think the tab's like almost like 15K or somewhere around there. It's like, I spent, our families have spent that much money. We've happily, to protect our investments and stuff. But now I've lost my relationship with the Tisbricks, and I've lost my relationship with Gordon.
Yeah, that is.
And all he had to do was move down the field a little bit,
Yeah.
and it's really painful. So please do not consider changing these regulations. It doesn't set a good precedent for the town, and it's
Well,
we're in the right here. Like we really are. If you drive by my house and be like, whether you feel that it's a sawmill or not, you ask yourself, is that a nice thing to do? Is that a good human thing to do?
If he came in for a permit and that was my house, I would have done exactly what you
Of
did. Because I
course.
wouldn't want that there. It's not
No.
an appropriate place for it. But if somebody wanted to put that same business in the field behind Chamberlain's barn,
Sure.
1,000 feet away from anything, and they went to the DRB to go for a permit to run that business there,
Mhm.
I would be like, if I were on the DRB, I'd be like, yeah, I think that's a
Sure,
good
that's
place
going to
for
be
that.
acceptable.
So
Yeah.
this is how the process works,
Mhm.
and we're not just changing the law for him.
No, I get that. In your view, it's not. In my view, it is, and it's
I
hard.
see
It's hard
it
to,
too.
it's hard to say that, because without his catalyst, we wouldn't be talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true. So and yeah, I would just ask you guys to not consider to advise, I guess, the select board not to have this to the vote, because one of my fears is that, I'm a cook and my lady is an elementary school teacher. Do you know how many, I've worked mostly up at Smuggler's Notch in my time at Vermont. Do you know how many chili bread bowls that I had to serve to buy the house? A lot. I'm from the city. We're living the Vermont dream.
Yeah.
We're homesteaders. I'm a stay-at-home dad. This is crushing our Vermont dream to have that potentially go right back to where it was.
Yeah.
And really, I really thought that I could call the town and be like, hey, this guy's got unregulated business down here. Can you please tell him to move? I think some of that's getting lost in the translation of
No,
the fight and the this and the that. I don't want any of this.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy my property and be with my
Oh, yeah.
kids.
Right.
And I would just say this could happen anywhere. It could happen to your house. It could happen to yours. Actually, if you live on English Settlement, I talked to Trevor Sporle a while back, and I believe 5 or 10 years after those regulations were written, somebody said from Alaska or something, there was a big to-do about a court case about somebody wanting to put in another firewood processing down there. And he advised me, he's like, look, we almost had it go. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to hire an attorney. Make sure you hire a good one. And, it will come out in your favor, because that's how the regulations are. But this is like a common thing for loggers to do, or for firewood processors to do. So I guess that's the gist of it. Oh, and my worry is this, is I'm not from Underhill. Gordon is from Underhill. He has a great relationship with a lot of people. He's a town employee. He knows all the farmers around and stuff. I don't have those resources to, if this goes to a vote, it would almost surely pass, because of the pool that he has in town. I am one citizen asking to please don't do this, because I'm not, and I shouldn't have to campaign after I've spent the money. I'm relying on the town to have my back, because that's why I bought the house in Underhill. We could have bought a house in Cambridge, and said, no, there's no regulations there.
Mhm.
We don't want to risk the little bit of money that we have to live our dream, and if that happens, that's like mob rule, I'll just get all my friends to come down and vote you out, and we'll do what we want. You know, I feel like regulations are set up, even though they're not perfect, even though, you know, you want to be down the road to make sure somebody can, what is a sawmill, and be successfully interpret it and accurately interpret it. You know, I'm the little guy in this situation, you know, like if you change these regulations, it's going to benefit one entrepreneur and it's going to not benefit many citizens, you know, like.
Well, general, you know, whenever there's a general, some of the general questions that are put out to the public in Underhill, there's always a question about whether you prefer a rural kind of environment in the town or not. And it's overwhelmingly, yes, we want to keep Underhill as a rural town. We don't want it to be a bedroom community.
Right.
Well, it is a bedroom community, and the rural is a little bit of a fiction, but it's a good fiction. It's a fiction of,
sure, I'm buying into it. Yeah.
Of things with people having different businesses in town, you know, and respecting different businesses as they come into town. And so, I mean, a bedroom community is a community where, you know, okay, it's going to be silent from border to border. We're not going to have any businesses in town. The grass has to be cut.
No,
any more than
I don't think anybody in town wants that. You know,
in the yard.
Well, here's the deal. Our job is to go through these regs because they get dated over time. I mean, this is literally pages of stuff that DRB gave us that somebody said, hey, this is kind of vague. This doesn't make sense. This contradicts this.
Okay.
Go through these and look at that. So that's, I mean, whether it comes from somebody in the DRB or somebody like
One of the citizens, yeah, I get it. Yep.
That's what we do. So please don't think that like we're doing this for Gordon's sake.
I don't think that, and I'm a guy, I lead with love. I don't. That's why I found myself in Vermont, such a great township and, you know, community of people. This was baffling to me that this happened. I keep telling everybody this is not a Vermont thing to do. You know, let's just like move. No, you know, and we were on vacation. This was unbeknownst to us. We were gone for 3 months. We come home like, oh, cool, great, you know.
Well,
and then it was like, call Brad, and he's like, oh, they're allowed to be there. And I'm like, oh, really? Like, I kind of read the regulation and it says no, and I'm a stupid cook, you know, like. So, you know, I guess that's all I have to say. But I'll tell you this, like, we're not going away on this, you know, and. I think I've covered everything I wanted to say, but
well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
You're heard, and everyone very much understands where you're coming from. So,
you know,
And we're not trying to kick you out, but we did.
No, yeah,
we did
yeah,
instigate a 10-minute.
I'm sorry.
Comment.
which will now be formal going forward. Now everyone has officially had their
appreciate the extra time.
Now everyone has officially had their comments. Okay.
No, I appreciate everything you do here, guys. Thank you for listening to me, and
Well,
I hope the roads are good on the way home.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, you know, so again, please, guys, please don't advise this regulation to be changed. You know, I can't say it enough. You know, it'd be such a slap in the face for us too, because we spent all the money, and it was like, that's hard-earned money spent, man. You know, like,
Understood.
you know,
Wait a minute, you're saying it'd be a slap in the face if we clarify some of the regulations? That's what we want to do?
yes, it would absolutely be a slap in the face. If you could, let me finish, sir.
Really
If you,
object to that, you know, that is not at all what
Sure, can I-
That's not what we're doing here.
I understand. Can I finish my sentence?
Yeah.
Okay. So it really would be a slap in the face, because like we just spent the money to interpret those regulations for the town. You know, like that is the slap in the face to say like, oh, well, actually you did interpret it. We don't like this. So we're going to change it. Or we find that now that you brought it to our attention and it's not super, you know, specific. So we will change that. And when it gets changed, you know, like I said, you know, it's not going to set a good precedent for the town to just, you know.
Well, in another year, when we have the regulations changed, everything that we're working on, we've changed other regulations also over the last couple of years here. The bylaws, we've gone through and changed them. So when it comes up for, you know, public comment, you're more than welcome to come in and comment to everybody. And maybe there'll be a big crowd there that will pay attention and maybe vote it down. Or
Sure.
vote that out. Or
It's very frustrating for me to be like, I thought I was going to be able to make one phone call to the town after reading the regulations as a layman. Then I had to hire an attorney to interpret that. And now it seems that you're advising me to campaign against this, which is like, that seems silly to me. You know?
We haven't seen it yet.
No one knows
Right.
where this is gonna land.
Sure, I'm just here, again, I don't want to come off as abrasive at all. I don't, I'm just trying to protect my investment and protect my quality of life.
Understood, 100%. Understood.
Let me go.
All right, well,
I'm
thank
sure-
you, Nicholas.
Guys, thank you
for
so
coming in
much.
and
Thank you, guys.
taking
Thank you.
the time.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
God bless you all.
Drive safe.
Yes. And I'm sure the kids are in the car. Awesome. I told you I'm long-winded, guys. So I'm so sorry.
Not at all. Have a good night.
You as
Thank you
well.
for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
I forgot to do one thing.
One
Oh,
more thing. Is
sorry.
there anybody online? I'm so sorry.
It's Commissioner Carolyn.
Oh, so no
yeah,
questions.
no,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. I forgot to approve the minutes from the last
I
meeting.
wasn't here, so I don't
No,
know.
I know, but we have a quorum.
Oh, we
when
do,
Sandy's
okay.
back. I've looked at the
Carolyn's
count,
here too. Okay.
so I guess I'll do it when Sandy gets back. Okay,
So I got a question for you about this, Brian, or are we gonna get back to this? This is our next.
no, I mean, because of the snow, I was planning on getting us out. of
Yeah,
here
yeah,
in
yeah.
like 20 minutes, so, or less. So
Yeah.
we're gonna chop 24 VSA 4412. So what's this?
And your additions, right?
And my additions will be chopped too. Yeah, and we'll let me give you one thing on the addition while we wait for Sandy, which is we're interviewing a guy who would be the planning administrator tomorrow. And it's not as an employee, so it doesn't have to come to us, and it'd be really quick. He apparently has a service, he's like an independent contractor, and he does this for multiple other towns, including Bolton.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea how much it costs, I have no idea anything. I just know we're meeting him at 11 tomorrow, so it could be like a really quick, efficient way for us to get a part-time planning administrator.
So he would
that's
just work with us and not the DRB.
Yes, the
Then who's gonna
DRB is
work
doing
with-
some other thing, I think. Well, maybe he would
No,
do.
they're gonna work with this.
They were supposed to work with CCRPC,
Yeah,
but
okay.
no, I don't know, for I know this guy does both. I don't know, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
it's great. Hopefully it works out. 'Cause
Yeah,
we would have a
that
planning
would be
administrator like
awesome. Yeah.
super fast. 'Cause he's not an employee, right? It's just like hiring any other third party. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So that's that. So
Okay.
that'd be good.
Excellent.
And one other thing I just want to put in people's minds is, I'm sure you all remember, we have to write a little report for the town plan about what we did. And I
Oh, yeah.
always forget to take notes on what we've done. So if everyone can remember, maybe for the holiday party, we could just like have a
Oh, let's write it
1-minute
down.
session before we start the
Yeah,
holiday
okay.
party. And help me remember what we did over the last year so I can write a little report.
Chatted.
We chatted about Sawmills, I know that for sure.
Yeah, we did chat about Sawmills. So if you can just think about that,
All right.
that would be very helpful. Because I need to write this report. I'm gonna repeat that for Sandy. Can you please try to remember for the holiday party,
Okay.
like just remember like what we did over the last year, because I have to write the report.
Highlights.
So, I would appreciate it.
Excluding.
The other thing I told them was we have an interview tomorrow at 11 a.m. with someone who offers a service as like a part-time planner. And he's not an employee. He's like a
Okay.
third-party service. He does it for Bolton and some other folks, so could be interesting.
All right.
So yeah, those are the, and I want to vote on the minutes. If people read them, to get them off. Did you read them?
I didn't. Is that the other remote class?
Yeah, I do, because I need you for a quorum.
I mean, I generally don't have issues, right? So it should be clean.
Because, well, let me think about that. Because Roy was absent for one of them,
For the 7th.
for the 7th.
And that's what's on here, right?
So the 7th and the 21st. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the meetings for the 7th?
Oh, can't.
Okay. Yeah, Roy, you didn't show
Oh,
up,
yes.
so you're out. You had to have surgery. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes on the 7th?
Yes.
David, second. Bart, thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Passes. 21st. Roy, you're back in the game. for
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
Does anyone have any questions or comments on the 21st? No. Motion to approve.
Yes.
David, second.
Second.
Second, Bart, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, that takes us to Sawmills. I will say for the record, for everyone listening, now everyone involved in this sawmill thing, we have given more than adequate time to. We really, and this is on me, and I promise to do it, and you hold me accountable, 10-minute public comment
Okay.
from now. Now, everyone has had more than, I felt bad cutting Nicholas off because Gordon gave such a long presentation, but literally everyone involved has now had as much time to speak about it.
Yeah,
as
and
they-
also, there's still sort of litigation going on, so I think we shouldn't really hear any more about this particular
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
If people have general comments
Yeah,
or suggestions.
So we'll institute that going forward, as we voted on at the last meeting, but I felt a bit bad about it, so I apologize. I don't know what people think we should do with sawmills now. I don't know if we want to, if people have to digest. I shared what Charlie and Brad told me. I don't know how people feel about 1,000 feet, if they feel it's nuts.
How do they
either
feel
way.
about redefining it as a wood process, as a home business, and not having it be a sawmill?
No, I mean, that's what, yes.
They're
That's
all
what
right
they
with that?
both, well, that's what they both wanted to do,
Yeah, okay.
with rules
Yeah,
and making it a conditional use.
right, yeah.
I kind of want to watch that appeal thing now.
No,
Not that I.
Is it available?
Not like now.
is it available? on Leonard?
I don't.
Okay.
I think I
Oh,
saw
I
it
don't know.
I guess that just takes a
I just
little
mean, like,
research.
before I.
No, I'm
when you
not
said
asking.
You
for
need to
anything.
digest.
Yeah.
Before I was like, I kind of want to watch it.
Well, we don't need to decide anything.
Yeah, but I think
Appeal?
it's, I think.
Yeah, the DRB meeting or whatever, on Monday they had, it was, the appeal of the violation was being heard in that.
Yes, something happened with it. There was something with the
Yeah.
violation. I
Well, I remember,
literally don't even know exactly.
yeah, I
what the
remember
violation-
Gordon said that he got a violation, even though he said he was shut down for the year. Now all he was processing was his own stuff, and he's already got a lot set up for next year off the 15 or something like that. So I don't know. That's why I'm kind of curious to watch what this is all about, because
I
what
mean,
he
and-
said versus what other people said. to see
An
what's
appeal means there was a decision and it's being challenged.
My understanding of what was happening was Brad gave Gordon a violation. Of what? I don't know. I'm not sure. If it was
Yeah.
like
Still
cutting when he wasn't supposed to be
Yeah.
cutting, or still operating, or logs there, I have literally zero idea. But that's what this hearing was about.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to see what it was.
There's litigation going on.
Yeah, it was in front of the DRB, and it had something to do with a violation that Brad wrote for Gordon for some reason in connection with the fire. That is the total extent of my.
Okay.
So what we could do is people could watch that, and we could talk about this in January, because that would be the next opportunity to talk about it.
Yeah.
Or
I mean, I
people
think
wanna
we
talk
need
about
to
it
do some
tonight,
pretty
we
good
can talk about it
research
tonight.
about what decibels, and radius and how that all plays out, I guess. I mean, that's something that, I think that's a great idea. That's what they want,
And
some
then-
specific guidelines.
The nuisance ordinance has, I'm not saying that this is what we want to use, because I have no idea. I have to I don't understand hertz at all, to be totally honest.
1,000-foot radius, that means it has to be a pretty large parcel.
Well, that's the number, Brad, again, that's the number, Brad.
Well,
gave
but
me.
does the radius relate to like a property line, or does it relate to like a house or a patio or like what?
If I owned a 10-acre lot with this, and I put my sawmill here, what's Brad saying, again, this is Brad, said that 1,000-foot rate, then you could just take a protractor and go, 1,000.
It has, so that radius has to be within the property line.
Within the property.
No, it just has to be 1,000 feet
From another
from
house.
another house.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, so it can overlap, so it could be here and the property line's here, and
Yes.
it could go like this, but the
100%.
house has to be outside.
100%.
That's, okay, that's what I was trying to say.
So if I put it here, then I have like a.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
if I put it here.
So you could put it 5 feet from the property line, but if everyone is 5,000 feet from you, it doesn't matter.
Which is why I asked Nicholas, I was just curious, like in theory, are you amenable to, just as a resident, like, make a ridiculous number, 10,000 feet, right? Like, yeah.
Well, they seem to say okay for the 1,000 feet.
Nicholas?
Actually,
Yeah.
No, he did not like the 1,000 feet.
No,
Just
he
in
didn't.
his.
I thought it was 7.
1,000 feet makes no sense to me, or little sense. everybody complains about the noise. And so, and the guidelines already have like 60 decibel limit. So, you know, if you have a wood processor with a muffled engine, it's gonna make damn little noise. And you can put it 200 feet away. And also, you know, you've got wood lots and you've got hills and so forth that'll lead up the sound. So 1,000 feet really is not important. What's important is decibels.
Are you guys familiar with the guy in Fairfax with the middle fingers?
Yeah.
You are. Are you? Anyone else?
The what now?
Yeah, I mean, he's a Vermont legend. Everyone knows. The dude with the middle finger in Fairfax.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this guy's like gone national. I think.
Oh, yeah. Well, I've read it because we drove by that and I was like, what the heck is this? So of course I had to research it, but I think it's I feel like there's some interesting parallels in like the stories. You know what I mean? Maybe. No.
Like in terms of being,
Well, from what I understand, the
'Cause he
guy's
did
business
that-
was in Swanton, but he was tired of it being there. He wanted to move it to his house in Fairfax. And
Right.
based on regulations and stuff, he can't have that. So
Right.
he's super upset at the city about it. And so his response was middle fingers. Not saying that Gordon's going to carve out middle fingers. I'm just saying like there's an issue with wanting to have his business at home against regulations and all that stuff. So I know that's lasted for like what 10 plus years. So I just wonder how long this is going to last. That's why.
Well,
hopefully not 10.
Somebody who runs out of money, probably.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's already a decision against him doing it at his house, so
Yeah.
he can't. And if
You mean the middle finger guy
if Brad's served him a violation, that means he's being fined, I guess, I assume.
Right.
And so now he's appealing violation.
Right.
So, and the zoning administrator very rarely fines people for violations of zoning bylaw or the law, or the decision, I guess. But
I'm
what I'm aware of.
I was just thinking like all of this clarification and stuff for like Nicholas's sake and the rest of the ball is like he could still never get what he actually wants on the his ladder, however this thing is defined, and still have to go to 15. But at least we have a clear definition to protect for the future.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Right.
Anyway,
Okay.
I don't know why I'm bringing that up.
Oh.
I had a point that it kind of like
We'll have a clear definition and nobody will ever come in again for a permit for a
yeah.
wood processor, probably.
I mean, probably, quite possibly.
Yeah, I mean, but that's not crazy.
Unless they're up on Upper English, like you stated.
I was just trying to find a remote road. I love riding up Upper English Settlement. For the record, it's one of my favorite
No, I
roads
mean,
in
most of the
Underhill.
lots there are, most of the lots are 100 plus, so you can easily put up whatever you want out there and nobody's gonna really know.
All right, so what's the consensus here on action? Because I know it's snowing and people do not want
Let's
to.
just read it.
Oh, it's not?
It's done now?
Oh, it's not?
You're supposed to stay with a blizzard out there, Stan.
So-
Well, we don't really
Well,
have any
that's-
business anymore.
That's slightly
The north
disappointing.
side of the ridge is.
Well, that's very disappointing for separate.
Yeah, wait, let me text my wife. Oh, she says we've already gotten a foot. I need before my road is unpassable. I need
So
that.
do people want to digest? I know, I also feel like that was a little bit emotional. So do people want to digest what happened tonight with Sawmills? Do people want to keep discussing Sawmills? Do we want to talk about 24 VSA 4412? Or do people want to end the meeting early due to what?
I know what you want to do.
What do you want to do, Roy?
I'll let it early.
What's the question again?
Talk about Sawmills? Do you need a mental break from Sawmills?
Yes.
To absorb what we talked about tonight? Do you want to talk about 24 VSA 4412? We can start that. I am gonna hand,
Is that up to date now?
yes, it's up to date. I want to have it printed.
Oh,
And I'm gonna give it to everyone for
let's
next
just
meeting.
give it
Yeah,
to us so we
give
can
it to
read
us,
it.
right.
and then we can
Bring it
discuss
home.
And, okay, so your vote is.
I'm gonna go home and read it for the
Your
next
vote is
half
to
hour.
go home early.
Yeah, right.
Bart, go home early. Okay, there's it. Go home early. Go home early. All right, let me pass these out. Yes, Amanda printed these for
Oh,
us.
beautiful.
They updated it. You can see there's a big thing up on top there that says, the statutes below include the actions of the 2024 section of the General Assembly. So that's-
Thank you.
That's what we're looking for.
And this is the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not that big.
Okay.
I wouldn't have printed it if it was like crazy thick.
Okay, it's not a big print, but it's.
Okay, well then, based upon a clear majority of everyone, is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
David?
Second.
Bart, second. All in favor?
All right.
Thanks, everyone.